CM Punk has been missing from WWE television since the Raw after WrestleMania, after he lost the World Heavyweight Championship in that great Night 2 main event against Roman Reigns. And then after Mania, he told us, I'm not going to sit around sulking over it. I'm not going to go on vacation. Right? He was going to stay ready. Evidently, that meant off television because we have not seen him since, outside of those gym photos with him looking all yoked. There was video too. There was like a little video clip as well. A lot of people have been talking about CM Punk, speculating about him on, social media. He's on steroids because of, a few low resolution photos that made him look bigger than he really is. Oh, he must be on the gas now. He's a body guy, right? Then this week, a rando account on X posted what they claimed was a scoop, saying Punk may have been playing politics behind the scenes with the WrestleMania main event and didn't get his way, and now he's upset about it, which has led to some heat backstage between him and WWE and the powers that be. But wait, he may have also been asked by TKO to take a pay cut, and he's pissed off enough over it that he may have threatened legal action or even asked for his release, which is why he's been off TV. But then they also, in the same breath, they caution that there's been some cold water thrown on this, namely the part about him asking for his release. See, I think the whole thing is unbelievable to begin with, just because they're talking about him threatening legal action and all this stuff when we know full well CM Punk, he would have just walked over to Triple H or Nick Khan. He would have started throwing fists. He would have lost his cool because that's what he does. So this report is already unbelievable. I would like to sit here and tell you that I'm shocked by how much traction this nonsense got on social media and how many people have taken it and ran with it as if it has any legitimacy to it whatsoever, which it doesn't. It's all bullshit. Made up, bogus, grade A factory bullshit. And I guess because there just hasn't been a lot of real hard news this week outside the Vince McMahon stuff, people are bored, and so they saw fit to create their own news cycle. Fightful Select was forced to look into this nonsense, and they report that nobody in WWE, among the dozens that Fightful spoke with, have heard that Punk wanted out of his contract, and no talent that we heard from believed he was asked to take a pay cut. One source we spoke to says that he has a story coming up soon with new merch being produced and dates planned for the summer. And so on Thursday, WrestleVotes Radio reported that one source has told them signs point to Punk being back on TV on or before the July 6th episode of Raw, which just so happens to be taking place in Chicago. Now, this comes with a report from Dave Meltzer that Punk is expected to end up on the SmackDown roster upon his return, which is something that I've been saying since after WrestleMania, that he needs to be on SmackDown. So that would be a welcome change. And even if Raw is in Chicago, it's not like as a Raw guy, right? We haven't seen him appear on SmackDown before when they're in Chicago. He did so the night that AJ Lee made her return to the company. So that doesn't mean anything. SmackDown is where CM Punk should be. That show could use all the help that it can get. And if they get back Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre soon, or even just one of them, and Sami Zayn finally has an interesting story for himself after months of stagnation, Gunther just got moved over to SmackDown. Rhea Ripley moved over there after she won the women's title. Finn Balor just was traded over there. With the influx of newer faces on the show and the show moving back to 2 hours in a couple of weeks, they have a real chance to push the reset button on that putrid show and make it watchable again. Now, Fightful also had a report that said some people within AEW have long believed that bridges between Punk and the company could eventually be rebuilt, even if he never actually wrestles there again. The report noted that Punk may not repair his relationships with everyone in AEW, but asked whether he had completely burned bridges with the promotion. The response was, never say never. And then on Friday, Jack Perry posted an image on his IG story of an album cover from the album Ape Got Fire by Front End Loader, showing a creature torching a bridge. What Jungle Boy doesn't seem to realize is that if in some bizarro world CM Punk ever wanted to go back to AEW and Tony Khan found out about it, he would take him back in a heartbeat. If Jack went to Tony and said, hey, it's either him or me, right? Jack would be gone so fast, even at max speed in the Jurassic Express bus, Luchasaurus would not be able to catch up to him. Okay, that's how fast he would be gone. But this is all much ado about nothing. The fact that this was even in the news this week shows you how slow of a news week it was. I don't know if Punk disappearing from TV was always part of the plan or if it happened because creative changed suddenly, which, I mean, clearly it did with Gunther, right, being shifted over even though it looked like he was going after the world title. And then all of a sudden he's on SmackDown attacking Cody Rhodes. I think the Randy Orton injury necessitated that. It's not the worst idea to give Punk a little bit of time off, given that he's 47 years old and he's been injured multiple times. Okay, they've been very fortunate that he's been able to stay healthy recently. Giving him a couple of months off to recharge the batteries is a wise move. And then bring him back in time for SummerSlam. You know, a feud between Punk and Cody is what I want to see. Maybe it's too soon for SummerSlam. I don't think it's too soon, but whether it happens there or not, it's something that needs to be done. Cody has stagnated. A feud with Punk is just what he needs. And he did tell Cody back in April, you never know when a title opportunity might fall out of the sky. And my first thought was, Money in the Bank, but it doesn't have to be Money in the Bank. An opportunity can fall out of the sky in a multitude of different ways. In fact, there's a tournament happening right now where the winner gets to choose the champion that they want to challenge at SummerSlam. And you might be asking yourself, Solomonster, CM Punk is not even in the King of the Ring. What are you talking about? We'll get to the King of the Ring here in a second. Where there's a will, there's a way. Don't count that out as a possibility. In the King of the Ring, the SmackDown sweep was completed on Friday. The SmackDown burial was completed on Friday. Even more impressive than the Knicks sweeping the 76ers and the Cavs right out of the playoffs this year was the SmackDown sweep. Obafemi is going to get Dominic Mysterio on Raw tomorrow night. On the other side of the bracket, we got our first real upset on Monday, where it looked like Seth Rollins was a shoo-in to not only go to the semifinals, but to go all the way to the finals. He got bounced in the opening round against Javon Evans, Ricky Saints, and Tala Tonga, thanks to Braun Breaker and the Vision. And Javon Evans ends up the beneficiary. He is moving on to the next round. I actually like that. Maybe I should have seen it coming after Breaker failed to win his match the week before, but I was still expecting Seth to advance. So when he didn't, I was surprised. So the only thing left to decide was who would Javon Evans be facing in the next round out of Jey Uso, LA Knight, Royce Keys, and Finn Balor. Keys and Balor were SmackDown's last hope. That hope was extinguished when they had the Yeet Man pin LA Knight. And so Jey Uso was moving on. Not that it was going to happen anyway, but if any LA Knight fans were holding out hope for an eventual world title run, you got to give it up. It's not happening. You got to let that go. He's on the wrong side of 40, and they don't see him as world title material. That's just the way it is, and that's not going to change. But they went with the least appealing of all the available options. Jey Uso against Javon Evans is of no interest to me. Jey Uso against Obafemi in the finals is of no interest to me. Jey Uso winning the crown is of no interest to me. Jey Uso challenging Cody Rhodes for the WWE title at SummerSlam is of no interest to me. Jey Uso challenging Roman Reigns for the title at SummerSlam is of even less interest to me, based on the last match they had at SummerSlam. Jey Uso winning another world title is of no interest to me. Yet this is where we are right now. And we could very well be looking at King Yeet, because if Brock Lesnar doesn't show up on Raw tomorrow night, he is almost certainly showing up in Riyadh to screw Oba out of a win. And if it's against Jey Uso, then that means Jey wins. Now, as I see it, that's the only way Jey Uso gets to the crown. It would have to work. That path I just laid out, that's exactly how it would have to go down. If it goes down that way, then Jey wins. How awful would that be for Obafemi to go to the finals and lose to Jey Uso, right? That would be just terrible. Now, I'm keeping hope alive that we could end up with a last-minute replacement in the tournament. I went over this idea last week. I brought it up. The idea being that you get a last-minute replacement if Javon or Dom or even Oba were to get taken out, right? Who's to say that Brock Lesnar doesn't show up tomorrow to take out Oba before the match with Dom even happens. Dominic mentioned that in an email, not Dominic Mysterio. I'm talking about Dominic from Connecticut, who sent an email in. Brock returns. Let's just lay this out. Brock returns tomorrow night, right? A surprise ambush. Maybe he breaks Oba's arm with a Kimura lock, right? So now Oba, he wants to go. He can't go. Medical will not clear him. And so Dom is, of course, he's over the moon. He thinks he's going to the finals. And Adam Pearce says, you still need to earn your spot in the finals. I'm going to find a replacement. Next week on Raw, you're going to face that person. That person ends up being, CM Punk, who beats Jey Uso then in the finals, chooses Cody to challenge, which would explain the jump from Raw to SmackDown if they do move Punk over to SmackDown, and we get Cody against Punk at SummerSlam. So when I mentioned before, like, you might look at Cody and Punk and say, how are they going to get there? There's not enough time. No, there is time. There is. If you wanted to do it at SummerSlam, that's how you do it. And I love that idea, right? That's the sort of thing I was getting at when I talked about getting a replacement in there last week. Whether it's Orton, McIntyre, Punk, there's a few different people that could be slotted in there who are MIA right now, but you have to imagine they're going to have a role at SummerSlam. They could still salvage this thing and give us something unpredictable, give us something fun, but like a good unpredictable. Not unpredictable for the sake of being unpredictable, but unpredictable in a good way. There's still time. And with that idea, let's say you went with the broken arm angle, it puts Oba on ice just long enough to kill time before the big SummerSlam finale with Brock Lesnar, where now Oba has a real reason to want to kill this guy. He cost him a world championship match, and he broke his arm. Yeah, the thing is, WWE does not know how to book tournaments. They generally do a very poor job of it when it comes to the main roster. The Cruiserweight Classic, the Mae Young Classic, the United Kingdom tournament many years ago, those were all great. When it comes to the main roster stuff, they don't know how to do it. They just don't know how to do it. This would at least salvage this thing and make things a lot more interesting heading into SummerSlam.